Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new season of MLB DFS 2019, brought to you by your buddy Choppadong and the one, the only, DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things DFS, not just MLB, but MLB happens to be where we're focusing because today it's finally here, opening day of the 2019 season. We kicked a lot of butt in spring training. If you're following Bowerman's articles and doing a lot of work there, we had a lot of guys profiting, getting the rust knocked off, getting ready for a great baseball season. As you can see as I scroll down the Army wall of wins, we do a lot when it comes to baseball. 10 grand here, 100 grand here, 20 and 50 grand here, another 100 grand. We've got the track record to dominate this MLB season. We've made some changes, and I want you to see what those are. So come along with me. Let's take a little tour. And if at the end you like what you see, why don't you click the link at the bottom in the description, DFSArmy.com. Use coupon code OPENINGDAY for a 20% discount off the lifetime of your membership, as long as you remain a member. And come on inside and say hi. We'd love to teach you how to play this game too, but right now I'm going to show you and our VIPs a virtual tour of what we have in store for you for this MLB season. And I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can. I got a lot of tools to cover because we're going to produce a few articles a day, but most of what we do is going to be in the form of tools. I'll come back later and do a video based on Domination Station. Actually, I think it's loaded, so let's go ahead and let's open that up as well, and we'll move him down here towards the very end, and we'll play with the three lineups as we go. But first thing that I want to do is I want to show you the content page. Under the MLB tab, we have this daily content page, and we have a basic training page. These are the places that I would start if I was brand new to DFS Army, brand new to MLB, whatever the case may be. It's always a good thing to review the basics. We have links to all of our tools. You can also hover over the MLB tab and scroll down these tools here and find anything from tutorials to strategy articles to whatever it is that you're looking for. But you've also got hot links here sitting on the MLB daily content page. You also get all of our information for, our coaching rooms and our coaching forums and whatever else, all of our MLB articles, tool tutorials in more depth than I'm going to go through right now. The research station tutorial, which is going to be upgraded because we've made changes just today, this very day. We made some changes to the DFS research station as well. And then, of course, strategy articles, bankroll videos, bankroll management. This is always a good thing to cover. And the ladder system, which has revolutionized the way a lot of people play daily fantasy sports. If you've never heard of it, click the link. You're going to enjoy what you see. It might teach you a little bit different way to play as well. So the first thing I'm going to start with when I start my DFS day is I'm going to look at the weather. We have our own weather forecaster. Mark is great with weather. He's very aggressive. If you follow weather around the daily fantasy sports industry, that's great. But what you're going to find with Mark is that he's going to hold you onto those games a little bit longer than most people before he throws the panic button and says, fade the pitching, fade the bats, get out. He has not burned me more than, say, 3 times in the couple of years that I've known him. And we're spanning over 300 to 350 slates that I've known the guy, and he has not burned me very often. And it's remarkable how aggressive he stays by watching radars and giving us information. Is the wind blowing out to left? What speed? What's the temperature? What's the delay risk? What's the postponed risk? So obviously tomorrow there is none. Well, this isn't tomorrow. This is actually last day of last season. So anyway, bear with me because some of this stuff is populating as we go, and some of it will populate early in the morning tomorrow. But the in-game risk of a delay, which obviously in a lot of cases, we don't worry about bats on in-game delays. We worry more about the pitchers being pulled early. The bats, they'll go and play cards in the locker room for a little while, come back out, finish up the game. But the pitchers, we're not going to warm up a $20 million arm just to throw 20 pitches, have him sit and go and then come back out. That's an injury risk that we're not going to take with a $20 million arm. So air density also tells us a little bit about how that ball's going to travel. It translates into a hitter rating or a pitcher rating based on park factors and other things. But a lot of it happens around the weather that particular day. Little tips like, Colorado Rockies early in the season. It's pretty cold up there in that altitude. Ball doesn't travel as far. It's dense. So you're going to want to pay attention to this air density rating and figure out in domes or in retractable roof situations where those balls are really going to fly, where you've got the most home run potential. You may line up against a soft pitcher but have a horrible hitting environment. And this sheet is going to tell you that, as well as in our coaching forums. We have our own weather channel where you can ask Mark directly what he sees. That's where he posts all of his radars. That's where he posts his radar loops with arrows and everything on, pointing out exactly where the stadium is and what line of storms is coming at the stadium, if it's going to miss it just to the north or just to the south, or if it's going to hit. All those things get told to you during the day leading up to lock and through the evening when weather is an important factor for certain games. So it's a great, great, great feature to DFS DFS Army. If we kick over to Nilly's Carnage report, if you have never seen Carnage number, it factors a ton of things, and it comes off as purple for a very, very good situation and red for a very, very bad situation for the pitchers. So if I see purple pitchers, I get on board. Those are pitchers that I'm going to want to consider, and it'll populate tomorrow as well. We had an old one up, but it was a shorter slate and it didn't show you a whole lot. But red is also very, very bad. If I see red numbers, I'm going to want to stack against those pitchers. It also overlays hitting information, like expected WOBA, regular WOBA, K-score, which is our own metric, and I'll get to that in a little bit, VK score, which Nilly can explain, Sierra, implied run total, all these things that you can look side by side and start picking which pitchers you want to both roster and attack with bats. And it very quickly points these things out to you to make your research time a lot swifter, a lot more efficient. And to be quite honest with you, I've actually got Nilly scheduled to join me in a screencast video later on this weekend when he gets ready to rock and roll and load this sheet up in full, and he's going to go through and describe exactly what it is. So if you like these videos, it'd be great to hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell so you'll get the notification when another video drops. Subscribe to the channel so that you can get those notifications, and stay tuned for Nilly joining me and talking a little bit more of his own creation, this Carnage report. I want to also kick down into the DraftKings tiers, because some people play tiers, and granted, it's not loaded for tomorrow yet, but again, Nilly controls this, and so purple is good and red is bad, and you're going to see the player name, the team they're on, XWOBA, WOBA, ISO again, K percentage, OP, K percentage, and what you're going to see for both the batters and the pitcher versus the handedness. You're going to see these factors line up, and you're going to start to see, Carnage number again, but you're going to start to see all of the purple line up across, and you're going to know pretty quickly who are the people in that tier to factor into your cash games and your GPPs. And then with the teams, you'll also take notice of where some of the stacking will go, and maybe you'll see, a Bryce Harper or somebody in there with other Washington or Philadelphia guys, or maybe Washington guys, or maybe you'll see that you see everybody's going to be targeting those Philly guys, and so I'm going to want to use maybe a Milwaukee stack against St. Louis instead, and then you'll be able to target these things and play GPPs with a little bit of game theory on this page directly from it. You don't have to do a ton of research. We've done a lot of that for you inside DFSArmy.com, and that's the whole point. We're trying to make sure that you go work your 9 to 5, and when you come home within an hour or a couple of hours, you can sit and play, get some numbers really, really quick. Now, we've got other tools that if you want to dive as deep as you possibly can dive and you want to totally nerd out, we got that for you. If you want to learn how to start off really, really quick with some of the very, very basic catch-all metrics and build competitive lineups, but you love baseball and you want to learn baseball and dive deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, we've got that ability for you, and I'll show you next in our research station. But another thing that I consider before I get to the research station oftentimes is our starting lineups page. And when I go through our starting lineups page, I can see these lineups populate through the day as lineups get released. And I can see pricing between DraftKings and FanDuel. I can see what the handedness of the batter is. I can see pitching information down here at the bottom with our own proprietary DFSA grades, which are a catch-all metric. You can also see Carnage report, which is again the purple number I'm telling you about that you're going to see tomorrow. But the DFSA grade tells us on a scale of 1 to 100 how strong that overall matchup is, factoring in things like BVP, park factor, Vegas odds, implied run total, WOBA for the pitcher, WOBA against the pitcher, for the batters, according to handedness, strikeout rates. All of these things factor in, and I'll dig into that here in a second on our next sheet. But I just want to explain to you that this is another quick visual. Some people are going to use all of these tools. Some people are just going to find one or two favorite tools that they like, and then they will latch onto those. Some people really only build lineups based on this XWOBA and this WOBA differential, and that's fine. It works. You would take a look at this XWOBA number. And what is that? You'd say you can head to fangraphs.com or whatever and quickly look up the glossary and find it in there, but it is essentially an expected WOBA of what that hitter should be doing based on removing certain factors like luck, like BABIP or some of those other numbers that you've heard. And it's going to tell me what he's actually doing and what he should be doing. And it's going to compare the two side by side and produce a differential. It will tell me how much the guy is getting lucky or how unlucky he's getting. So if his XWOBA is, pretty high, 350, but his actual WOBA is 317, it tells me he's due some positive regression. This green positive number tells me that Trey Mancini, in this case, would be due some positive regression based on today's matchup. And you might play that on a little bit of a GPP hunch because he's facing a bad pitcher, and you might say, hey, I really like that. And you might stack accordingly. You might find a couple of guys whose actual WOBAs are really high, like a Dwight Smith here with a 390 actual WOBA versus a 314 expected WOBA. He's due to cool off, but what if he doesn't cool off today? And what if Trey Mancini heats up today and you run a Smith VR Mancini stack and it performs really, really well for you? This sheet can show you that. And we have the coaches and the experts inside our coaching rooms to explain these numbers to you, explain to you where they see things going and how they see things playing out, and you may choose to follow along or you may choose to go your own way. That's the beauty of DFS Army. We have the experts there to help guide you and help teach you along the way what it is, what we're looking at, our processes, what factors, what tools we like to use, and what questions we like to ask amongst ourselves, amongst each other. And then we can parlay that or pass that information right down to you and parlay all of this knowledge together to make you a better player and help you raise your edge over a very, very volatile game like baseball. So looking down here on these average numbers, you can, again, green is good, red is bad. You can start spotting guys. If both numbers are good, then the guy's just good to go. Don't worry about him being too hot or too cold. But if there's a big differential between there, you're going to quickly spot it and know, does that mean that he's due to heat up or due to cool off? And that may tip the scales into whether or not you use that particular player. This lineup also, or this lineup page also shows you batting order where we focus on the top of the order, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of places have starting lineups page, but nobody overlays the stats onto them like we do inside DFS Army. The research station is going to take some time. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We're 11 minutes into this video. I'm going as fast as I possibly can, but this research station is going to take time. There is a longer tutorial video getting ready to come out that will go through column by column by column and by the creator, Benjamin, and show you exactly what each column means. I'm just going to hit the high points. You're not interested in maybe nerding out completely on, O swing or X swing or Z swing or whatever swing type numbers there are to dive into. You just want to know, hey, who did locks? Who did locks, man? Just tell me what the good stuff is. And that's what I'm going to do for you right now. If you want to learn more, you can certainly come inside and you'll see on this sheet, you can go absolutely crazy on statistics, which us baseball people love to do. You see all of your pricing. We started on the starting pitchers matchup tab, and you can see all of your starting pitchers for the day. You can see all of their pricing for the day. This isn't necessarily red is good and green is bad. It's red is expensive and green is cheap. But the yellow teams are the home teams. You see their opponents. You see the handedness of the pitcher, start time. You see the total batters faced across a couple of years, plate appearances, pitches per plate appearance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to use those numbers, that's great. You can see things like opponent versus starting pitching and opponent hitters numbers. And you can start looking at these things and how they kind of play off in conjunction. What story do they tell? Is the pitcher giving up a high WOBA or is he not? Are the hitters coming in carrying a high WOBA or are they not? And you can start comparing and contrasting. Or you can start scrolling over a little bit and you can go through his starting pitching numbers versus the batter's starting pitching numbers. And this is the beautiful thing. I want to show you something really quickly. K percentage versus opponent K percentage. I used to add this together for a K score. And in this case, it would be, what, 56.5%? Drop the decimal, it gives you a 565. That's going to come into play here pretty quickly. But a higher K score tells me that the opponent, either the pitcher is striking out a ton of people or the opponent striking out a lot or both. And I want a situation where it's both. And so the higher the K score, the better for my pitcher. It gives me more upside in picking a pitcher. I'm going to look for things like Vegas odds, which we probably don't have populated in here just yet. But if I slide all the way over to the Vegas section, nope, not in here yet, but they'll be in here sometime tomorrow. And I'm looking for high odds favorites, high money lines favoring my pitcher. And then I want to look at a high K score, high strikeout potential. And then I want to look at a DFSA grade, which is a catch-all. It's going to take into effect all of the swinging strike, the K percentage, all of the bat, walks per nine, fly ball, ground ball percentage. It's going to take all of that stuff in different weights and measures and throw an overall strength of matchup score based on the hitters coming in to face that pitcher and what their WOBAs and their ISOs and all of their statistics are also against right-handed pitchers or left-handed, whatever the pitcher is. And it's going to show us what is the bottom line, dude. Is this a strong matchup or a weak matchup? And I use this column for two reasons. One, I want to find the strongest matchups possible. And I want those pitchers to have high strikeout upside, and I want them to have strong Vegas odds pointing in their favor. If I find those three metrics, I've done my job. I can find pitchers when the season gets rolling. I can find my pitchers in less than 15 minutes, and you can too when you have access to this sheet. However, I want to find the cheapest viable option in that because I want room for stacks in my in my hitters, right? So I may not use a Scherzer, or I might, depending on how overwhelmingly important he becomes for the slate. I'm also going to look at numbers like starting pitchers good and bad. This is a bunch of good. What are the positive metrics that are adding up to him? What is his WOBA allowed, his K per nine, all of these things, how fly ball, ground ball ratio, all this stuff goes into that. And what is the good? What is his upside? How strong is it, or how likely is it that he's going to have a strong outing, that he's going to have a great outing? And if this number's high, he's got a lot of good things going for him. If this number here is high, the bad, then he's got a lot of bad things going for him. So I can use these three columns right here in conjunction with each other to determine who I want to roster on my pitching staff and who I want to stack against. How would I stack against? Well, I would want somebody, say I take the DFS grade and just reverse it. And when I sort by ascending, if it'll load up and do it, because it's been a little bit of a delay here. Let's try that again. And it brings the low number to the top. So now I know that Cashner, Chacin, Zimmerman, Byers, Lauer, these are all guys with low DFSA grades that I could stack against. I can use this in conjunction with another stat that I like. Scroll over just a smidge and find Sierra. Guys with over a 5 Sierra, that is an indicator of what they should be pitching to ERA-wise. It's telling me that this is, kind of like the expected WOBA. If their ERA is, 4.0 and his Sierra is a 5.4, then it's telling me he's getting pretty lucky with that 4.0 ERA, and he really should be pitching to a 5.5. So he is getting ready to get blown up. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's the next day, but he should be getting lit up soon because he is not pitching according to the numbers he's posting. And that tells me that he's running into a lot of good luck, and everything normalizes over time. So the DFSA grade and the Sierra tell me that. But if I just want one column, because I'm pressed for time, I go ahead and I sort the bad column by descending, obviously, because I want big bad numbers. So forgive me for getting a little, I'm rusty too. I need my own spring training. But I look down here at these bad numbers, 20, 19, 18, 17, Zimmerman, Cashner, Barrios, same guys that you saw with the DFSA grade in a large case, but in a little bit different order. These are the guys you'd be stacking against because this bad number tells me he's got a lot of bad things going for him. Maybe he gives up too many fly balls. Maybe he gives up too much hard contact. Maybe he gives up, too many home runs per 9 innings. Maybe he's got a bad ballpark factor today. Maybe he's got a juggernaut of an offense that he's facing today and he's going to have a rough time. Either way, you compile all of those numbers in together and you throw them on this bad rating, and the really, really high bad numbers are the offenses that I want, the opposing offenses that I want to target. So if I scroll back over here, opponent, Toronto, New York, Cleveland, Chicago, Cubs, St. Louis. These are offenses that I'm going to want to dig into and find who might be the power hitters, the productive hitters, who might be set to have a big offensive day and put 5, 6, 7, 8 runs on the board because I want 3, 4 batters from those lineups, right? So it's more of a GPP type of tool. You can use, if you wanted to sort by the good, and it's funny how that just worked. If I sort by descending, I take all of the good, all of this. This guy doesn't tell me, in this case, Max Scherzer has a whole lot of good going for him and not much bad, right? So that's why he's got such a high DFSA grade. But if I come down here a little bit, I may take a guy like, Mike Minor, who has some upside because he's got a 66. He's got some upside, not as much as Max Scherzer, duh. But he's also got a lot of bad going for him. That's going to suppress this DFSA grade because it's going to largely average the two out. But what I'm looking for in GPPs is I don't care. I want a cheaper pitcher with a lot of upside, and maybe Mike Minor is the guy that I settle on. I don't care about the bad in GPPs. I know the risk. I know I might get blown up. That's fine. I'm trying to get a lower-owned guy for cheap so that I can put some big stacks in the lineups and then build lineups accordingly. So I use these 3 columns together. If I scroll over a little bit more, the value rating will show you price-wise, who is who. I'm going to sort that by descending and go back to where I was. we can look at all these other stats another time. I do want to show you Chop Shop. This is my own little gift from the guys, whatever you want to call it. I thought it was really pretty funny today because what it incorporates is K-score. And remember I told you 565 is what the strikeout percent of Max Scherzer was added to the opponent's strikeout percentage. It was, 22 plus 34.5 is 54, 56, 56.5, drop the decimal point and you get 565. Well, there it is right there for you. So if you really want to know the highest upside strikeout guys, the best strikeout pitcher going up against the most prone to strikeout team, you just sort that bad boy by the biggest number to the lowest number. And now you can see Scherzer, Verlander, Kluber, DeGrom, Tanaka. These guys all have better strikeout potential on the slate today based on their opponent and based on their own stuff. And this is going to help you quickly sort through this. You're going to find a lot of their ratings are going to be very, very good, but they get a little bit out of order. Guess what else gets out of order? The salaries get a little bit out of order. I might look for a guy that's up here close to the top that has a cheaper salary than all these others. These couple of $9,400 guys, $8,600 for Zach Greinke over on DraftKings might really, really tip the scales in my favor. And I might even take a Mike Minor, and get some really cheap pitching. Or I might take, a couple of middling guys if I came down here to 7,500 or 8,000 and then ran a $9,000 guy. There's a whole bunch of combinations that I can then use based off of these numbers telling me that I've got a pretty good shot at being right. And that's what this Chop Shop is going to tell you. The W score will show you a little bit more on the hitters tab. So let's jump over there. When I load up the hitters tab and I've default sorted again by the overall DFS grade, the catch-all metric, I've got a couple of other catch-all metrics. Remember the good and the bad from the pitching? Batter's eye and diamond rating are a couple of things that I'll cover next because batter's eye tells you the plate discipline. How good of a hitter is he? How good of a batter's eye does he have? Is he drawing a lot of walks? Is he hitting for contact and not striking out? And this is going to take into account the pitcher's strikeout stuff as well. And it's going to blend those two together and say that, for maybe like cash games, like a Joey Votto type, might have himself a very, very good day at reaching base, at not dudding on your cash lineups. He'll probably reach base a few times, score you a few points, and at least he won't post a 0. Okay? Now the upside is going to be over here in the diamond rating. The diamond rating is going to combine numbers like hard contact, barrels per at bat, all sorts of metrics that are really going into the sweet spot type stuff, where who has the bombastic upside of hitting one over the fence. Now it's really going to be more like fantasy point production because doubles and triples and whatever else, but it is going to be a little bit more predictive of sweet spot matchups where a bad pitcher is matching up against a great batter. And what you're going to find is some of these guys, like a Mike Trout, have great ratings in both, so that's fine. But if I wanted just upside alone, sort that off by descending, and these would be the batters I'd focus on. Now, the yellow guys are short sample size guys, so you've got to really, really tread lightly with these guys because they have very low plate appearances, so their numbers could be inflated. If I personally walked up to Max Scherzer and hit a bomb off of him, and I was 1 for 1 with a home run, my diamond rating and my batter's eye would be through the roof. My DFS grade would be through the roof. Doesn't mean I'm a good hitter. Okay, we need some more numbers to normalize these things. So I'd be focused a little bit more on the greens and the whites, not so much the reds and the pinks. But that said, you can look at a Russell Martin, you can look at an Austin Barnes, Justin Turner, Ryan Braun, Margot, Trout, Muncy. These types of guys tomorrow have a lot of upside. Now, if I wanted a little bit more safety, I would sort the batter's eye. And again, I'm going to see a lot of the yellow guys, but a Daniel Robertson, Fletcher, Sogard, Panic, Michael Brantley, Martin Brown. Now, again, you've got to double check like a DJ LeMahieu. You've got to make sure these guys are in the starting lineups, okay? Because some of these guys may or may not be based on today, based on right now when I'm recording this video. But you're going to need to go back through there. You're going to want to find a combination of a high batter's eye and a high DFS grade. So somebody like Eric Sogard. Scrolling down a little bit more, you're going to somewhere in the 90s and the 80s and whatnot. There's an 80.9, so Buster Posey. There's an 80. That's an 87 and a 94. So that's what? Justin Turner tomorrow. These are guys that I'm going to use these metrics to point out. When I come over here to the player type, I can sort by that as well. The safety is a more of a cash game type of player, a steady Eddie, somebody who gets on base a lot, somebody who's going to really kind of help you not fail in your cash lineups where safety is a premium. These are the guys that are going to do that. And you can scroll down this list and you see the number kind of drops off and fades as it goes. But This is just another catch-all type of metric that evaluates a lot of different things. Now, the upside is going to be a lot like the diamond rating in that it's going to tell you, your Joey Gallo types, your Chris Davis types, your boomer bust guys. This is the upside they have for their matchup today. So your Mike Trout, again, is going to register high in both of these. Rhys Hoskins is going to register both, on both of these because he's facing Julio Teheran, who's a pitcher that can be roughed up, right? So Anthony Rendon, Matt Carpenter, Max Muncy, Luke Voigt, guys, again, that are not necessarily yellow, are the guys that you're looking for. So these are just 4 or 5 columns that if you just had 15, 20 minutes, sort through these columns, pick some of these names that are ranked up really, really high and start compiling your lineups. You're going to find, you might find some of the value metrics here too, some of the cheaper guys. You might need a cheaper bat to go along with some of the expensive pitching. But this is basically how you're going to use this tool. Now, if you want to dig deeper, feel free. Go into the 2-year numbers. Go into the matchup numbers. A total matchup is an average of the total matchup of the pitcher with the ISO and a total matchup of the WOBA. If you want to see what the WOBA is that the hitter produces over 2 years versus the starting pitcher, what he gives up to the handedness of the pitcher or the batter, there it is. And high numbers are better, of course, for the batter than for the pitcher. And same with ISO, power numbers. Over 200 is elite. This pitcher's giving up a lot of WOBA or a lot of ISO. To that particular handedness of batter, and you got a guy coming in with a high ISO. Oh, this is a boomsticks type of situation, right? Mike Trout's in a great spot tomorrow. Hence the 100 GFS. All of these things are all going to line up. All the stars are going to connect. That's why these catch-all metrics are great because they can really save you a ton of time. If we scroll over a little bit more, got StatCast, data, opponent handedness. There's Chop Shop again. In this particular case, I would take the W score. That's WOBA. WOBA and ISO together. WOBA is not all hits are created equal. Doubles are worth more than singles, which are worth, triples are worth more than doubles, etc., etc., etc. And it's going to tell you the WOBA along with the ISO, which is pure power. Which of these guys are reaching base, are hitting for singles and doubles, but hitting a little bit more on the doubles and home run side, and then the pure power of which of these guys are just smashing the ball, combines these two numbers together and produces a very, very strong matchup for Mike Trout, Chris Bryant, Justin Smoak, Aaron Judge, Hunter Renfroe, etc., etc., etc. These guys, anything over 600 is outstanding. And I like to take this type of number and I like to put it in our trends tool. And I like to look for 30-day, 14-day, and 7-day samples, which I've also got right here in the trends tab. When these numbers start loading up in a week or so, we're going to start getting these sample sizes. Like if you like a trending WOBA, let's say you like the 7-day WOBA sample size, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. It tells me who's hot and who's not. I like to take bigger baselines and then overlay them with smaller baselines. And then I can tell when the bigger baseline at 392 has a WOBA 7 under the 392, it tells me this guy's running cold right now. I probably shouldn't be playing him. However, if it's something like a 477, and a 590 and then a 654. It tells me Luke Voigt is just getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and his price can't keep up with him in the industry. Therefore, I should be playing him. He's bringing me value. He's bringing my lineup value. God forbid he landed a good matchup like he is on opening day versus Andrew Cashner. That's a green light go sign. And this is how we're going to use these numbers this year, from trending WOBA to trending ISO to hard contact to BABIP, to another little catch-all metric, which is hard contact and BABIP. And let me explain that to you for 2 seconds. Hard contact is how hard you hit the ball, right? How much you hit it on the sweet spot, how much you square it up. BABIP is a little bit of luck factor. You hit a ball, sabermetricians consider it more of a random event, to where ball's in play, it gets kicked, or it finds a hole, or it was smashed really hard and went right to a guy who didn't have to move and catch it, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of luck involved. So some of these guys with, low BABIPs have low batting averages per balls being put in play. They're putting the ball in play, but they're not getting a lot of results out of it. And that only means that they're probably due some positive regression again, right? So if I'm looking for a guy with a low BABIP that's due to get some luck going his way soon, but he's hitting the ball really, really hard, it tells me he's just kind of hitting it right at people. And eventually that'll change. If you followed Matt Carpenter last year, his first half of the season was terrible. He was hitting the ball into the shift, and he was hitting the ball really, really hard, but hitting it right at people. And, people here in St. Louis were saying, dude, you gotta go away from the shift. You gotta stop doing that. And he's like, nah, it'll come around, it'll come around. We were about to send the guy back to the minor leagues. He was so terrible. And then what did he do in the second half of the season? He only led the league in average and slugging percentage and whatever else. He had a phenomenal couple of months there where all of that regression normalized. And this hard Babbitt number put us in the DFS Army on him faster than the rest of the industry, which meant we got him at a cheaper price than the rest of the industry, and we had more value in our lineups to do other things with around the course of our lineup, more than the rest of the industry. And that's the value that these sheets can bring to you. We've got stacks, tabs, parks, ballpark factors, tabs, etc. We've got a top 10 sheet that's pretty cool. Shows you all of the sortable stuff. You want to know who the top 10 safe value plays are? There it is. You want to know who the top 10 upside GPP plays are? There you go. It tells us all of this type of stuff. It's sortable and filterable by position, everything. A lot of guys build their lineups just off this page. I've spent enough time with that, I apologize, but this is a lot to go over. That is a very in-depth tool. Like I said, you can spend as little or as much time learning the game on this tool alone as you possibly want to. Let's dive in to the coaching picks page. Unbelievable. This is where we're headed this year. You want efficiency? You've got all of your coaches for tomorrow lined up here in tabbed format. They're going to list all of their starting pitchers that they find playable. They're going to show you the catchers, the first baseman. They're going to show you the outfielders, etc., etc., etc. They're going to show you their favorite stacks. They're also going to give you, of course, all of the pricing information if they think they're a cash or a GPP type of play, or an all format type of play, or a core play. And a core play is going to be blue. Gary Sanchez is, according to our DraftKings coach Cash Keg, Gary Sanchez is in a good enough position tomorrow that he is going to pretty much use him in most of his lineups. 40 to 50% shows you an percentage exposure. If he's going to run a massive amount of lineups in MME formats, he's going to have a ton of Gary Sanchez. He's also going to aim for a ton of Max Scherzer by this number. I can look at this and see how much he likes to play, and I can look at the confidence rating 1 through 5 stars. Loves Max Scherzer, loves Tanaka, loves Gary Sanchez. Another core play, Gleyber Torres, loves Gleyber Torres, loves Bryce Harper. These are the guys that he's going to try to use as much as he possibly can in his lineups, and he's recommending you should do the same. And you're going to be able to tab across these other coaches and be able to see the exact same thing. And if you find these coaches starting to repeat themselves, they're different people, they play with different methods, they have different research methods, but they're all landing on the same guy, that guy's a pretty strong play. And you can find this, again, in mere minutes when you plug into DFS Army. The notations you want to read about these guys, you can just use this stuff and say, hey, these guys are great, you liked them, it's awesome. Or you can read up on the notes of why he likes them. These are incredibly thorough notes. My goodness, just looking through these things, they're incredibly thorough. I don't mind tomorrow won't be this thorough, I promise you that. So this is hats off to Keg. He's really setting the bar awfully high. He might be the first guy that you run to tomorrow, and first tab that you click on when you join the Army, because you're going to want this type of information. I promise you. Keg is pretty much a professional caliber DFS player. Yes, he has a day job, but he plays for high volume, and he plays for big dollars. And you're going to want a guy like that advising you on the site, because he's putting his money where his mouth is. Other coaches will populate throughout the day tomorrow, but I just wanted to show you a little sample of what this page is going to look like when it's completed. He was kind enough to tag me earlier this evening and say, hey, it's up if you want to use it in that video. Domination Station, very simple. MLB, FanDuel, main slate. I want to walk you through this really, really quickly and show you how to build some of these lineups, because now you've seen a whole litany of information with all of these tools explaining to you sort of how to help pick out some of these players. You're going to want to pick a particular tool or two, and you're going to want to kind of get to them, get to learning them. And you're going to want to go from there and slowly add other pieces. Don't think that you can just plug in tomorrow and add it all and understand what's going on. Focus on one thing, learn that tool inside and out, and then slowly start adding to your process. That's how you're going to become a better player. And the people that survive are the people that commit to being students of the game. They plug in and they ask us questions in the coaching forum. They plug in and they learn the tools, and they ask us questions about the tools. And we're more than willing to teach anybody and everybody, whether you've never played baseball before or whether you've played for 3 years and you just want to get to the next level. We are willing to dive in and help you get to that level. That's what our community is all about. Looking at the Domination Station Optimizer, you can see all of the teams, all the games, all the implied team totals with the overall team totals, and you can see which games are better than others. When you scroll down a little bit further here, you can tab over all these positions if you want to, and deal down here with, say, only the pitchers, and then you won't find anybody else in there. or you can sort by just second baseman, whatever it is that you want to do. You can use these sliders for salary ranges, fantasy point ranges, salary cap, number of lineups. Let's say you wanted to build 15 lineups, and you wanted to use, say, tournament mode. Optimal mode focuses on optimized projections. Tournament mode focuses a little bit more on a mix, a little bit more randomized factor. Like if you add, say, 5% volatility to the projections, it's going to shuffle them up a little bit better for you. If I wanted to use, say, a tighter core, I would only change out 1 or 2 or 3 players. If I wanted to use a wider spread out lineup, I would force in, say, 4, 5, or 6 unique players. Let's just set it in the middle at 3. If I wanted to only pick guys in the top 5 batting order spots, I'd start unchecking these boxes. And by unchecking these boxes, I'm only going to get hitters 1 through 5 when these lineups confirm. If I add these back, though, what I'm trying to do is just cover all of the bases. If I want to allow hitting against my opposing pitcher, I can do so by checking that box. I've got 2 different ways to stack. I can stack randomized hitters, which is kind of a non-controlled format, where I'm only focused on my formation, say a 3x3 stack, and then I can say I want 25% Mets, and I want 50% Milwaukee Brewers, and 20% Philadelphia Phillies, and another 25% of the Cleveland Indians, and it's going to put 3x3 stacks together in all of those areas for me. And I can really target offenses. This is how I target my pitchers, the bad pitchers, is I'll just run stacks against them, and I'll vary it. And I'll just run, I'll just give you an example. Let's say I went 50 here, and I went 25 here, I went 25 here, 50 here, 25 here, 25 here. I believe I need to add up to 200% because I want 100 on this side and 100 on this side. See if I remembered that correctly. And then I'm going to come down here, I'm going to look at these guys, and I haven't done anything yet, but I can look across all of these columns and see, the pitcher's name, whether I want to lock him or whether I just want to add smiley faces to him. Do I want to boost his projections 5 or 10%, or do I want to decrease them 5 or 10%? You can control the way the optimizer mixes in your guys by controlling these projections. If you want, of course, you can always go in here and you can manually adjust the projections up or down so that you're not forced in just the 5, 10, or 15% parameters. You're going to look at value numbers, fantasy points per dollar, etc., projected points. Your money lines, these columns are a little bit off. I apologize for that. But you can also control your exposures. You want these guys at only a maximum of 50% of your lineups. Simply click the 50% and it'll put them only in the 50% of your lineups. That way you can control, maybe you only want Bryce Harper in 30% of your lineups, or you only want Mike Trout in 20% of your lineups, etc., etc. It'll help you do that. So when I scroll back up here, and now I've got these controlled stack or these non-controlled stacks set, I can optimize my brains out, build those 15 lineups, and when I scroll down here, I can start looking at these lineups. And this is a new format change for the Domination Station Optimizer, where these lineups are going vertical now instead of horizontal. You can look at here how the thing's populating, how it's starting to run, how many lineups out of the 15 these guys are appearing in. Apparently it loves Mondesi, Kang, or Kung, whatever, Kluber, VR, Calhoun, whatever. It loves these guys in the particular stacks that I picked. Remember, I picked certain teams in front. I did it at random, but you can see Pittsburgh, LA. You can see some of these, 2x2, 3. There's 3 Pittsburghs, there's 3 LA. So this is an Angels and a Pirates stack. Maybe that's what I go with tomorrow. Maybe it's not. You can see the projected batting orders. You can see the projected fantasy points. And then up here, you can get a total on the fantasy points, the total salary used, etc., etc., etc. This is line if you want to use. You can download it into a CSV file. You can upload it. You can build between 1 and 150 lineups. And like I said, you can optimize your brains out. These will turn into check marks when they confirm. And of course, we're going to have projected ownerships imported in as well on the larger slates of, whatever, over 4 or 5 games. So tomorrow will certainly qualify. And the projected ownerships will be in there, and you'll be able to tell how low owned might I be, or is this more of a GPP situation or more of a cash situation? And again, these are things you would take into the coaching forums, and you would ask for confirmation. You would ask, am I on the right track? Am I thinking along the right lines? As I scroll down through these lineups, you'll see here's another LA stack, but this one was Baltimore, so 3x3 there. You can see Baltimore, Pittsburgh. And if I wanted to, I could change this up by just changing the exposures of these teams, or changing the formations, whatever it is I wanted to do. But you could see it was following along perfectly with what I wanted to do. Now, if I want, I can turn off the random hitter stackings, and I can go much more controlled. I can double stack these lineups. I can go, say, 3 by, well, let's do 4 by 3, just because left to right reading style. 4 by 3. And let's say the team I wanted was Washington. Let's say I wanted 50%, 4 stacks of Washington. And I could add in the players. Say I want Eaton, Rendon, Zimmerman. I'm just picking names here. Turner, and so on. And then I wanted to add another team. And I wanted to come down here and grab some Yankees. And I want 50% of the Yankees. And of course, Judge, Gardner for the leadoff, Sanchez, Stan, Torres, because I saw him on Cash Keg's list, Voit, Tulo at the bottom to wrap a stack, perhaps, if the optimizer decides to do that. And I've got 50% here and 50% here, so I will have 100% of my lineup should have 4 stack in them, but it'll be half Washington and half New York. Now let's say over here, I wanted to run those with, say, St. Louis. And in this case, I just want 25% of St. Louis. And let's see, 25% of Detroit, 25% of LA, and 25% of Oakland, just for giggles, because I don't want to take a ton of time doing this. So Fowler, Wong, Ozuna, Carpenter, DeYoung, Goldschmidt. See, there's a lot of St. Louis guys that I might use, okay? Let's go Candelario, Mercer, Harrison, and I'm just randomly picking names, okay? And I'm going to need this to be a little bit larger, you know, for the value guys, because with some of the bigger, more expensive stacks, I already know going in, I'm going to need some of the cheaper guys. Bohr, I know that's not necessarily cheap, Calhoun, may or may not be able to use Trout, Cozart, Simmons, and then for Oakland, again, just kind of picking guys, kind of Simeon, Chapman, of course, Grossman. Now, I hope this doesn't backfire on me. I hope that I picked a couple of value guys, but the idea is these are the only players that are going to end up in those stacks. It's going to, now one thing I will do, I'll change that to 45%. I'm going to give it a little bit of fudge room, just so it won't freak out and build terrible lineups for me or whatever. This is a little art that I've learned from messing with this tool, that I want at least a little bit of wiggle room. And if I click optimize, please do it, because I'm not spending much time doing this and I haven't run through it yet tonight. Okay, looks like it's going to do it. 15 lineups. It may stop me partially through and say it could only build 8 lineups, and that just means I left too many restrictions on it with my players. I need to go back and either add players, or I need to, you know, lessen up some of the stacking restrictions. But it looks like it's going to love Juan Soto, Luke Voit, Adam Eaton, Ryan Zimmerman. It's going to love some Washington. It's going to love some Yankees, of course, because those are my 4 stacks. But if I look through this lineup here, as long as it doesn't change, it's going to run Corey Kluber, and there's a pitcher. It's going to run Voit, Torres, Young Ho Kong. So what have I got? A little bit of Miami. Well, there's Verlander at the top. That lineup's largely non-stacked. Pittsburgh, Miami, Baltimore. Okay, largely unstacked. But here's one that is stacked. That's because of the discrepancy that I left here with the 45 and 45 and the 24s. It threw in a non-stacked lineup for me that it felt was more ideal than this one. But it quickly went to a stack 1, 2, 3, 4 Yankees, 1, 2, 3 Angels using Kluber. Okay? Now I can quickly look and see with the Yankees, I've got a 6, 9, 8, 1. So I've got basically a bottom of the order stack with a dude in the middle. Maybe that correlates the way I want it to. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I need to adjust some things, or I don't use this lineup. I scroll down a little bit more. And I find New York, New York, New York, LA, LA, LA again. 6, 8, 1, 4. So 4, 6, 8, 1. That's not terrible. We've got guys on base when guys come up to bat. Washington, 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 Washington. There's the 4 stack with 3 LA guys again. The LA stack is what, a 1, 3, 6. And the Washington stack is a 1, 2, 3, 5. That's actually pretty effective. Washington stack correlates very, very well. So you can see how this tool is starting to build lineups for me. And I can take these, like I said, and I can dump them into a CSV file, and I can upload them right away into FanDuel or DraftKings, whichever one I might be multi-entering. But I can also use these to build 2 lineups, 3 lineups, 4 lineups, etc. So again, I just wanted to show you a little bit of the tools, a little bit of the tour, how you might use some of these tools to identify players and how you might build some of these lineups. And I know it took 45 minutes, but to be honest with you, it needs to be done. You guys need to understand how much depth is in dfsarmy.com, and I really appreciate if you made it all the way through this video. Please like it, please subscribe, please ring the notification bells. Most importantly, please click the link and come into the community and start asking us questions. We're here to help you. We want to help you get to be a better player. We want to help you raise your edge over a very, very tough DFS environment these days because people are getting more education. We just believe we're ahead of the curve by our community feedback and our ability to help in real time answer your questions and your answers strategically with experts that have been there and done that. And again, you can see the track record anytime you want to on our wall of wins. Take care, guys. Hopefully I see you inside tomorrow. Tomorrow's opening day, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting the ball rolling with everybody for a long summer season of winning. Winning, winning, winning. I'm Chapadong, dfsarmy.com. Use coupon code opening day. Trigger that 20% off discount, and hopefully I see you guys on the inside.